mean, however you look at just diversity and inclusion, it's a good discussion that nobody loses, everybody
I
wins.
apologize. Here is the.
Okay, I know we're dealing with some technical difficulties and we're having this ancillary conversation.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 10th, 2020 meeting of the Albany County Legislature. My name is Andrew Joyce and I serve as chair of the Albany County Legislature. Whether you're watching this meeting via our YouTube stream or listening to it via telephone, you can tell we have not been able to return to our normal chambers. As previously done, we must move forward with the people's business remotely. Our rules allow for a period of public comment before our meetings. In accordance with the guidance provided by the governor, our own county executive, and the commissioner of health, we are managing the public forum virtually. Registration was open last week, and we have many speakers for tonight. Our rules direct that we commence the meeting at 7:30, so please keep your statements brief to allow as many speakers as possible. Speakers are going to be allowed 2 minutes each. Given the delay in our opening of the meeting tonight, we will push the public comment period. I believe it's roughly 15 minutes later than normal. So we'll begin our full meeting at 7:45. At this point, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Beston. Bruschi.
Here.
Bergdorf. Chapman.
Here.
Clay.
Here.
Weary. Camiso. Frank. Cunningham.
It was here before.
Thank you. Kamalowitz.
Here.
Drake.
Here.
Epicoro.
Here.
He's here.
Here.
Stefani.
Here.
Fine.
Here.
Grimm.
Here.
Andrew Joyce.
Here.
Raymond Joyce.
Here.
Mr. Kuhn.
Here.
Langdon.
Here.
Lekekis.
Present.
Lockhart.
Here.
Morello.
Here.
Mayo.
Here.
McLaughlin. McLean Lane.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Hurley.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Palotsky.
Here.
Reedy.
Here.
Reinhardt. Bill. Reinhardt. Rickard.
Present.
Simpson. Smith.
Here.
Tunney.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Whalen. Ms. Whalen. Ms. Willingham. Ms. Willingham. Looks like 32, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Clerk, Paul Bergdorf is here.
Thank
On
you.
this right in right now.
I'm here.
He got you. Is anyone on the call that did not hear their name called?
Yeah, Mr. Reinhardt.
Are you here?
Got you, Mr. Reinhardt. Anybody else?
Mr. Devane, do you got me? It's Paul Bergdorf.
Yes, I do, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the call that didn't hear their name called?
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yeah,
Got him.
present. Are you present, Bill?
I think so.
We
Thank
got you.
All right.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to ask everyone, if you're not speaking, please mute your devices. I'd like to ask the clerk to name the first speaker.
Paul Miller.
Yeah, it's only for people, who
How do I mute it?
might be watching.
Mr. Miller.
You tap on the screen and then you see a little picture of a microphone in the bottom left.
Yeah, we don't need the walkthrough tutorial. We'll give him a moment.
We just had a question.
Mr. Miller, are you there? Okay, if Mr. Miller joins, we'll get back to him. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Matthew Sisman.
Thanks, bye.
Matthew Sisman.
Mr. Sisman, are you on? Give him a moment. Oh, it looks like we have Paul Miller. Paul, can you hear us? Mr. Miller, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Okay. Hi, I'm Paul Miller. I reside at 115 Avon Street, Albany, New York. And I want to thank the legislator for giving me the opportunity to speak in support of local law B. I would like to raise some awareness of concerns about fires that may occur at storage areas if tires are used as fuel. Tire fires are very difficult to extinguish. Each tire produces about 2 gallons of oil when burned. One major problem with tire fires is there are many air pockets within them that allows them to burn down inside the pile, not just on the surface as normal flammable liquid does. When you put out a fire, you normally do it by one of 3 methods. Remove the fuel, remove the heat, or remove the oxygen. The nature of a tire pile makes it difficult to use one of these methods. Therefore, you may have to be smothered by dirt using heavy equipment. These fires can take months to extinguish if there's a large quantity of tires. One tire fire in Virginia that burned for 9 months and had a plume of fire up 3,000 feet in the air. Plume. When tires burn, they give off very nasty fumes, as I can attest from many vehicle fires that I've been at over my 52 years as a volunteer firefighter. The smell stays with you for quite a while. The hazard caused by the burning of tires, as well as other toxic materials in vehicle fires, has led to a point where firefighters are now required to wear self-contained breathing apparatus at vehicle fires, even though they are normally outdoor fires. You might know of those as oxygen tanks, even though they don't actually contain oxygen.
30 seconds, Mr. Miller.
I'd like to thank you for your opportunity to express my concerns. I hope that you vote in favor of local law B to reduce this fire risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Good to hear from you again.
You too. Thanks.
Mr. Sisman, are you on? Mr. Sisman? We're going to wait on Mr. Sisman. He's there. Mr. Sisman, do you need to unmute? Mr. Sisman, are you on?
Hello,
Mr. Sisman, can you hear me?
I'm speaking, but nobody's hearing me.
We can hear you, Mr.
I
Sisman.
can hear you. You can't hear me.
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is this Mr. Sisman?
I'm a longtime resident of the. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, the matter which commands my. I want to speak on Mayor Sheehan's stated plan to remove the Schuyler statue. I think that the matter is bad judgment that's monumental. He was a leading citizen of Albany, and like our other noteworthy Philip Livingston, who signed the Declaration of Independence. They were 2 of our leading natives who were dedicated to the cause of American liberty. My comments are longer than 2 minutes. There's a record of them already in your proceedings, so I'll just cut to the chase. I think that General Philip Schuyler is an important part of our regional and national history, and I feel that all of the residents of Albany County, not just those in the city of Albany, have an investment in what happens to the statue. Accordingly, I'm calling for the question to be put before the voters of the county November 3rd, and in the time leading up to the election, I'd like to see the county legislature do whatever it can to make that happen. I thank you all for your time and attention and consideration of my proposal, respectfully submitted, and I direct everyone to the full remarks that I already submitted. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Joseph Ritchie.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can
Joseph
hear you, sir.
Ritchie.
Hi, yes. So my name is Joseph Ritchie. I'm a lifelong resident of Cohoes, New York. I am also the executive director of Saratoga Sites Against Norlight Emissions. I'm speaking today in favor of local law B. I'm here to remind the legislature that corporate entities are not citizens, and that you focus on the people who live in your county, such as the single mothers trying to raise their 2 children and mother who has end-stage COPD, was living in the shadows of Norlight. That would be my mother, and that would be my family. We need the Cohoes legislatures to stand up for Cohoes values, to stand up for clean air, and to focus on the issues, and not to focus on the bureaucratic crap that we've been dealing with for 50, 60 years. Living by an incinerator, every single day there's a horrible smell, there is soot, there is people dying left and right of unknown causes. It is unacceptable for the legislature to defend these entities anymore. Our future is green. New York State set a bold, ambitious goal to be 100% renewable by 2050. Allowing these facilities to stay where they are is unacceptable, and it is not the Albany County that I want to live in. The Albany County legislature needs to stand up for the human rights of those who live in Cohoes, for those who live by the Lafarge plant, and for the rest of Albany County and New York State. Have the courage to stand up for citizens and not the corporate entities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Harold Waterman.
Carol, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All righty. Okay. First of all, I want to thank all of you in the legislature who are supporting local law B. I'm going to cover a little bit of research that wasn't talked about last time. There's been research that looks at PFAS in men's blood, and then they see what it's associated with. And it's associated with smaller sperm heads, lower sperm motility, and then another study which was done on boys exposed in utero to PFAS, and that exposure is associated with lower sperm count and reduced testicular size. Now, for females, it's associated with earlier age of menopause, which is in turn associated with lower bone mineral density, i.e. osteoporosis. There's a reason that these chemicals are called forever chemicals. They stay in the human bodies for 4 to 7 years and the environment indefinitely. Now, since Lafarge has neither truth nor justice on their side, they've resorted to bullying by threatening to sue the county if local law B becomes law. Well, first of all, they have no grounds to sue. But if they do, suing might not end well for them.
30
because
seconds.
they'll be, oh yeah, okay. The whole period of discovery where our side gets access to their documents. And we know that there are document leaks all the time. So if they're suing, I eagerly await seeing the slime that's going to be unearthed. Meanwhile, everyone stay safe, stay New York tough, stay Albany County tough also, and ban the birds. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Greg Campbell Cohen.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Great. Good evening. My name is Greg Campbell Cohen. I'm a resident of Albany County and an employee of Clean and Healthy New York, an environmental health advocacy organization based in Albany. I speak today both as a private citizen and as an advocate. New York's asthma rate is 31% higher than the national average. Perhaps because it is so familiar to us, the impact that it has on our everyday lives is often understated. But just because the most devastating effects of asthma can be treated with an inhaler doesn't let us off the hook from large swaths of the population who are precluded from experiences and activities many of us take for granted and consider essential components to the richness of the human experience. When last I spoke in support of the Clean Air Act, I mentioned my time living in Knoxville, which has some of the worst air pollution in the country. Now to walk my dog in the summer, I had to wear a mask. Since then, everybody in the country has been forced to share in that experience, and half of you guys are apoplectic over it. It is trendy among advocates to say that air quality is a problem you can't shop your way out of, but this is only half true because you can't actually buy a house in the suburbs in exurbs. Those who do not or cannot, the working class and minorities chief among them, are disproportionately subjected to the excesses of air pollution. It is clearly reflected in asthma rates and life expectancy. In a pandemic, when those same populations are frequently classed as essential workers in occupations where they are exposed to and contracting the novel coronavirus, this is a lethal conflagration of circumstances. A good society provides for the health and well-being of
30
its
seconds.
citizenry, regardless of race or income. As a resident and environmental health advocate, I strongly urge Albany County to pass the Clean Air Act today so that we may continue to build toward a good society. I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Joanna Batman.
Hello. Thank you very
Hi.
much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Johanna Batman. I am Executive Director of Shaker Heritage Society, located across from Albany Airport. Our organization was incorporated in 1977 by concerned citizens in response to the construction of Heritage Park ball field and growing community concern about the loss of open land and development pressures on the historic site. We have leased land from the county during that period, and I'm speaking in support of local law 10 that would extend that lease through negotiations with the executive. We have a dual mission of preservation and education, working as stewards and advocates for the property and the 9 surviving Shaker structures on the site, and work to share the stories of Shaker innovation, whether industrial, agricultural, or social. To that end, we offer hands-on programs teaching traditional American and Shaker crafts, hold archives and collections, and facilitate research, and offer craft fairs and a holiday market that generate over $90,000 of revenue for our vendor partners each year. The Shakers were radical and put into practice the ideal that all men and women are created equal, regardless of gender or race. And they touched over 20,000 lives in their history, offering food, shelter, and community to Americans. And this is the legacy we seek to honor and celebrate. A long-term lease will grant Shaker Heritage the flexibility needed to plan a long-term vision for the site as a dynamic community center and tourist attraction worthy of the capital region. Through partnerships with community organizations, the Northeastern Woodworkers Association, and small businesses, we seek to create education facilities for STEAM programs and develop new earned income and fundraising opportunities that will protect and improve the physical site for the next 50 years to come. We hope the legislature will vote yes to partner with Shaker Heritage on charting a sustainable future for this an irreplaceable historic site. My deep thanks to all the legislators sponsoring this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Paul Tick.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Paul. Go ahead.
Thank you. Norlight is owned by a company from Spain, and Lafarge is from France. Both operate in dozens and dozens of countries around the world, and both have histories of law-breaking, polluting, prosecutions, and massive fines. The records of these companies prove the need for strict regulations so they do what is right for the community, not just for what they want for profits. They will try to scare us, saying that good-paying jobs are at stake, especially during the coronavirus pandemic, but fear of job loss is a common ploy many companies use to avoid responsibility to the community. These multi-billion-dollar companies are actually expecting us, the people of Albany County, to sacrifice our health for their massive profits. Lafarge often exaggerates when it claims that the EPA and NCON support tire burning as environmentally sound. What the EPA and NCON really say is that the best option is to repurpose the tires into new tires. The next best option, they say, is to recycle them into new products, and burning them for fuel is the least desirable option before landfilling them. Among the diseases of tire burning and burning firefighting foam and other toxic wastes are asthma, diseases of the immune system, and these make us all more susceptible to COVID-19, cancer, neurological disorders, and more. The health of our community should be the overriding concern of the community and of the legislator, rather than the enormous profits that go to the pockets of overseas owners of multinational corporations. I hope we can count on you, our representatives, to support the community that elected you, and I thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Agnes Zellen.
Good evening. I'm
Good evening.
Agnes Allen, living in Albany County. Whether it's the burning of firefighting foam or the burning of tires, we now come to the end of months, well over a year of testimony that attests to the extremely hazardous and potentially deadly impact to each of us living within and around Albany County of the industries like Norlite and Lafarge-Holcomb. We need the clean air bill to be passed tonight because we cannot rely on these industries to do the right thing. And in some cases, we haven't been able to depend on our own federal and state regulators who should be providing oversight. Norlite, known for emissions infractions for years, has been spewing dangerous substances and particulates into the air that knows no boundaries. They have yearly incurred violations accruing hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. For 2 years, they have been burning firefighting foam with PFAS chemicals without any environmental review or legally required test burn. Even our own DEC and EPA inspectors, who are supposed to have prevented this environmental pollution and injustice, failed in stopping it. While the EPA forced Lafarge-Holcomb, one of the biggest air polluters in the region, to clean up and modernize their facility, their 2018 air emissions data show that out of 351 air emission sources in New York, Lafarge is #1 in creating toxic pollutants known to cause cancer, in addition to others known to cause numerous health, cognitive, and environmental injury. These facilities are near our homes, our schools, playgrounds, the Hudson River, and the Alcove Reserve, where Albany
30
County
seconds.
get their drinking water. Right now, we are asking that you, the legislature, ensure that our water, air, and soil are free from dangerous contaminants. Tonight, by your vote, which will you support? More profits for these industries or more protections for the residents who voted for you to represent them and thus protect them from such blatant harm to their air, water, soil, and health? Please pass the Clean Air Bill and adopt it into law. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Elizabeth Moran.
Hi there. Can everyone hear me?
We got you, Liz.
Great, thank you. Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Elizabeth Moran. I'm the Environmental Policy Director for the New York Public Interest Research Group. We are a nonprofit advocacy organization based in Albany, but we're a statewide advocacy organization. And I'm also speaking on behalf of myself as a resident of Troy, New York, which is impacted by the PFAS burning at Norlite. So my organization, we are strongly urging the passage of this law, of Local Law B, the Clean Air Act. It's especially critical that states and localities take precautionary approaches, measures that first and foremost protect public health, protect people before they can get sick, especially in times like these where we're seeing continued rollbacks on a federal level to protect air, water, and public health. And this law embodies the precautionary principle. So it's crucial that Albany County continues its longstanding history of adopting environmental laws and adopts this one. Norlite in Cohoes has burned at least 2 million pounds of AFFF foam, which is known to contain the toxic chemicals PFAS, and it's possible they've burned more. The bottom line is there's no evidence that burning PFAS is a safe means of disposal and that it actually eliminates these chemicals from the environment. In fact, it's quite possible and likely that the opposite is true.
30 seconds.
Preliminary data has indicated PFAS has ended up in the soil in the surrounding areas by Norlite. Additionally, burning tires and trash is likely a huge threat to public health. Both companies have had major Clean Air Act violations. We can't incentivize these historic polluters to continue behaving the way that they have. We have to stop their polluting business as usual, and this law would be critical to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Tom Ellis.
Yes, hi. My name is Tom Ellis, and I live in Albany. Tonight, I represent the Solidarity Committee of the Capital District, formed in 1983 to advance the aspirations of working and retired people for labor union affiliation, justice, peace, and other goals envisioned by the Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. I urge passage of Local Law B. Since 2005, I have publicly opposed the plans of the Lafarge Cement Company to burn millions of tires per year in its cement kiln in Ravenna. Two major reasons why I do this. Lafarge is located directly across Route 9W from the Ravenna, Queeman, Selkirk Middle and High Schools. Tire burning is dangerous, as you've already heard. And the second reason, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation decided in 2005 that Lafarge would not be required to produce an environmental impact statement for the massive tire burning project. Why are the DEC and Lafarge unwilling to prepare an environmental impact statement? What are they hiding? Why is the DEC so lax about protecting public health and safety? It is my view that without an environmental impact statement, tire burning next to two schools is intolerable. Local Law B would block the tire burning. Seeing as the state government will not protect public health, it is the duty of this legislature to protect public health by passing Local Law B. The issues here tonight are, who will make these decisions?
30 seconds.
Government or Lafarge? And is protecting the health of thousands of people more important than allowing Lafarge to increase its profits? I submitted a letter to you on this topic yesterday that I hope you all got, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Katie Cantor.
Say again?
Katie Cantor.
Katie, are you there? Bear with us one
Hello,
moment.
can everyone hear me?
We hear you. We can hear you, Katie. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, good evening. My name is Katie Cantor. I am a resident of Guilderland. I'd like to thank the legislature for the opportunity to comment. Adding tires to coal burning and foam burning are both incredibly disturbing and concerning to me as a mother of two beautiful children and as a teacher. Clean air is a fundamental human right. The Albany legislature must act now to pass Local Law B and protect our children and protect our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Daniel Micah Morrissey.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Daniel Morrissey. My address is 1 Hunters Run Boulevard, Cohoes, New York, and I want to offer my strong support for Local Law B tonight. There's no logical reason to allow Norlight and Lafarge corporations to continue polluting our region with their short-sighted pursuit of profit over the health of local residents. Growing up near Norlight wasn't healthy and has contributed to respiratory health problems that persist for me to this day. As other speakers have mentioned, both of these corporations are owned by international entities who have never cared for the health of the local population. Just across the river from Cohoes is North Central Troy, a low-income environmental justice community. And I think it's not beyond the pale to consider supporting Norlight akin to environmental racism. I hope that the Albany County Legislature will choose the side of humanity instead of money tonight and put our county on the path to achieve the ambitious goals of a sustainable region. Support Local Law B and assure clean air for our otherwise beautiful area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
James Travers.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mr. Travers.
Thank you. Legislators, as we look to our government for guidance to protect our health during the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, we expect the same concern from our elected officials to keep us as safe as possible from airborne toxic pollutants from all sources, like those emanating from Lafarge Holcim Ravenna cement plant's kiln, one of our state's largest polluters, as well as those from other local large industrial polluters, like Owens Corning fiberglass plant, and also SABIC, formerly GE Plastics, as well as the CEX Selkirk rail yard, and of course, Norlight. Ultrafine toxic chemical pollutants are tiny, nearly as small as the coronavirus, at 0.12 microns. A micron is 1/millionth of a meter. We have no technology today capable of effectively filtering such small toxic chemicals from industrial smokestack emissions. So we must do whatever we can to minimize introducing them into our environment. Many toxins found in cement kiln emissions are carcinogenic, while others mimic human hormones and interfere with the natural human biology and can cause developmental disabilities to fetuses in utero. Do not allow the burning of millions of tires annually at Lafarge, which will add greater risk to breathing our already polluted air. Vote in favor of Local Law B of 2020, the Clean Air Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Morrissey.
We do not have Mr. Morrissey just yet, so we're going to move on to the next speaker. Mr. Clerk.
Fran Porter.
Hello, members of the Albany County Legislature. My name is Fran Porter and I live in the town of Guilderland. Thanks so much for the chance to talk to you this evening. Tonight, you'll be voting on the kind of critical issue that demonstrates how impactful local government can be on the very personal lives of residents, affecting their ability to breathe clean air. Please vote for the Clean Air Act for 3 reasons. It sets a precedent to address and prevent future air polluting enterprises. Passing this law is consistent with the county's clean energy goals. And third, this law puts the health of residents first. Tire-derived fuel is not an acceptable cost offset for protecting the health of residents. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for being visionary.
Thank you, Fran. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Christine Primomo.
Good evening. My name is Christine Primomo. I'm a retired registered nurse. Thank you all for listening for what I hope is the last time on this clean air law, because my hope is that all of the Albany County legislators tonight will protect us by passing local law B to help protect our air, water, and soil, not just for today and for us, but also for our future generations. My husband and I are 21-year residents of the town in Queens. I was actively involved in the passage of the town of Queens Clean Air Law, which would prohibit tire burning by Lafarge Wholesome, which is now under threat. So we need this clean air law, local law B, to be passed tonight. Albany County Executive Dan McCoy has designated Albany County as a green community, and he's previously shown us that environmental justice is what he hopes to achieve. It's what we all need. Burning waste in tires is a huge environmental setback in keeping our air, water, and soil free of harmful contaminants, not just for us, but as we've heard, for our future generations. Clean air is a human right. Thank you for your time tonight, and I hope you will support the local law B. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I do believe we have David on the line. David, are you here?
Tom Morrissey.
We just had someone come up in the chat under the name of David wanting to speak, but Tom, are you there? Okay, next speaker, Mr. Clerk.
Annie Lee.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, my name is Annie Lee. I have been an Albany County resident for more than 14 years. I want to share you a very important message. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, cover up the coronavirus has led to a global pandemic. This virus shall be called CCP virus to hold the CCP accountable. It's time to reject the CCP. Why do I say so? Because of the CCP blatant disregard for human life. Today in China, to enforce quarantine on residents, the authorities would weld doors shut to entire apartment buildings. Most of the residents live on their storage food. Those who run out of food, they die of hunger. Those who run out of hope, they committed suicide. I just read in Wuhan, another elder couple holding hands jump off the 8th floor. The CCP disregards humanity, yet relentlessly pursues world domination. To achieve this goal, it uses unrestricted warfare, doing unthinkable evils. According to a study of University of Southampton, if Beijing has informed the world of the CCP virus 3 weeks earlier, the number of the cases could have been reduced 95%. So did the CCP make a mistake? No, this was done intentionally. China's state media calls it dominate the world through pandemic. The CCP also engaged a global propaganda campaign, and this infiltration come to Albany. In SUNY Albany, there is a Confucius Institute. The head of propaganda for CCP called the institute an important part of China's overseas propaganda setup. Instructors are required to follow China's law on US campus. So in short, during this pandemic, we have seen regions hit hardest by the virus usually have close ties to the CCP. So for our own safety, we reject the evil CCP. Thank you very much.
Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Chris Savinsky.
Chris, are you there?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Great. Hi, my name is Chris Savinsky. Thanks for hearing me tonight. I'm a resident of the Maplewood section of the town of Colony, a lifelong resident of Albany County, raising a family of 4, just 1 mile down the road from Norlight smokestacks. I'm also a PhD biochemist with a background in cancer biology. So, these two things have me deeply troubled about Norlight's decades-long pattern of Clean Air Act violations and the recent addition of PFAS to their kilns. PFAS compounds associated with diverse human diseases, including cancer and many more. Norlight burned over 2 million pounds, almost 2.5 million pounds of toxic PFAS containing firefighting foam in 2018 and 2019. This was done in secret without any environmental review. Given Norlight's demonstrated inability to control emissions from its operations, many experts agree that incomplete incineration and the consequent contamination of nearby neighborhoods occurred. Because Norlight burned these chemicals in secret with no stack testing, no scientific study can fully characterize the exposure levels and risks to nearby residents like those living at the Saratoga Sites public housing complex adjacent to that facility that Joe Ritchie talked about earlier, and all of my children. This is totally unacceptable. This pattern of abuse needs to stop. Albany County polluters like Norlight need to be held accountable for these past failures, I should note, and better regulated to prevent more harm in the future. So I'm here to, in addition to that, it occurs to me I have not studied the Lafarge and tire burning issue as deeply as I have the Norlight issue, but there's a lot of troubling elements there, and I'd like to address some of the comments that have been made in support of Lafarge.
30 seconds, Chris.
And suggesting that burning tires is preferable to other routes of elimination. A couple of speakers eloquently stated that there are for the elimination of tires waste stream, such as recycling. So I'd encourage Albany County to take that route and not be known as the United States capital of tire burning. Anyway, thank you for your time. I really hope that you would sign this bill. I urge you all to sign this bill, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Maria Gordet.
Hello. My name is Maria Gordet, and I'm urging passage tonight of Local Law B and the Clean Air Act. And here I'm speaking as an ordinary citizen and troubled homeowner. We live at 1 Hunters Run Boulevard, Cohoes, and we've lived here since 1993 and raised our son here since he was 6 years old. It was actually pointed out to us at around that time that Norlight was an extreme polluter as a hazardous waste incinerator and that we should move. Well, we didn't move at that time, and we raised our son here and happily started a business and worked at various employment and had a wonderful life. So now we come to find out that Norlight has been secretly burning AFFF which we talked about a lot tonight, so I won't go into the details of it, as you all know, but I'll start off with the most unfortunate and maybe glaring conclusion of all, that our small community of 40 homes can possibly be characterized as a cancer cluster. As we've walked around our community and talked to our homeowning friends in Hunter's Run, some people have said, oh, so maybe that's the connection between my cancer and Norlight. Maybe there is an unfortunate connection with environmental toxins. So we're very concerned, and we're hoping that you will do the right thing and please pass Local Law B, the Clean Air Act, which we'd be very happy to see passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Andy Stubing.
Sandy?
Yes, hello, everybody. I'm here to support Local Law B, the Clean Air Law. And in a way, it's disappointing that any county legislature in the US has to discuss a Clean Air Act law, let alone pass one, just so its citizens can breathe marginally clean air. And I say marginally because the global carbon dioxide concentrations hit an historic high of 417 parts per million in May of this year, which is an increase of over 45% from pre-industrial levels. So these emissions are at the highest level in at least 3 million years, according to Ford's. Now, I don't expect Albany to lower the global greenhouse gas emissions, but the least we can do is ban the additional toxicity coming from Lafarge or Norlight or any future industrial facility where nearby residents inhale the additional toxins on top of the CO2 levels that everyone on the planet has to do. So please pass the Albany Clean Air Act, and thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Christine Leonard.
Christine? All right, we'll try to come back to Christine if she joins. Okay, I am told she is in. Christine, are you on mute? Going once, going twice. Okay, Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Tina Lieberman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. Hi, my name is Tina Lieberman, and I live on Aspen Circle in Albany, New York. As education chair of the local Sierra Club and a co-founder of Zero Waste Capital District, I ask this legislature to support Local Law B. What's not in debate here is that burning tires, garbage, and PFAS chemicals causes toxic particles to enter our environment. We know that even the best stack filters don't catch these pollutants. We know that official stack tests are conveniently scheduled for once a year, only during optimal operating conditions and not at the time when emissions spike, like during startups, shutdowns, and malfunctions. These last 2 years have changed the way I look at the smokestacks from Lafarge and Norlight. I don't see a gray plume anymore. I see toxins like lead, zinc, dioxins, and furans, PCBs, and benzene floating down to us on the wind. Has that happened to you too? Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it so easily. What's really at debate here is how far can county lawmakers go in defending their residents from the moneyed interests of corporations. This isn't a question of putting any company out of business. It's a question of making companies take a little less profit so that they can take better care of the people who live where they do business. Here's what I found in my research. Lafarge's annual reports clearly state that they will add burning waste to coal because it will increase their profits, which are already substantial. Local management will earn bonuses as a result. Port of Coymans is a profitable business that has a long history of environmental assaults. They've had a contract with the DEC to dispose of tires for a while now and sent them to Seneca Meadows for shredding and reuse. This is what the DEC states should optimally be done with tires. Sure, they can make more money by selling them to Lafarge to burn, but should they earn more at our expense? 50% of the taxes taken out of my paycheck and yours goes to the Federal Department of Defense. Yet they cut corners and put our health at risk by not paying for appropriate disposal.
Christina, Tina, if you wanted to finish your point.
Yes, just please let big business know you're not going to let them pollute for profit on your watch. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have Christina?
Hi, this is Chris.
We got you, Chris.
Thank you. I am for the clean air law, and I appreciate everybody else's comments. I join with all of them, and I just urge you to pass the law. I really don't think it should be much of a choice. The companies have already violated the law, and that's likely to happen again. And it's a bad idea to allow them to do this. And so I simply urge you to pass the clean air law, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris. And just as a reminder for everybody on the meeting, it is 7:30. This is typically when we begin our full meeting in the legislature, but we did start 15 minutes late. So we're going to go out to 7:45, and at 7:45, we'll begin our full meeting. And if you are not speaking, I ask you to go on mute. Please mute your phones if you're not speaking. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Nancy Goody.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
Nancy.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak tonight. I want to encourage you to pass both the local law H having to do with sparklers, which I know is not going to be debated tonight or discussed, but I know it's on the agenda coming up, and also the clean air law, which is local law B. I have written to you all, and I think you have a letter from me from last month, but I just want to reiterate about the sparklers law, that right now the current law is confusing to Albany police. And due to this confusion, there's been very little to no enforcement of illegal fireworks. The city of Albany and the county was plagued with legal and illegal fireworks from April until at least July 5th. These were set off at all hours of the night until 3 a.m. in many neighborhoods and in many suburban areas as well. And several of them I know I heard. I live in the city of Albany, and I'd hear them during the day too. Fireworks such as these affect children, veterans, those with post-traumatic stress disorder, and working adults who have to get up in the morning. They're also a fire hazard. They're bad for the environment, for birds, and for pets. So again, I'm hoping you will pass local law H when it comes up. As far as the clean air, local law B, do I have 30 seconds?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Why do we even need this law? It seems almost illogical, but we apparently need it to protect our population. We don't need increased asthma attacks or higher heart disease. This law would ban the burning of tires, trash, or toxic firefighting foam, and banning waste, also banning waste to fuel facilities. And this sounds like a good idea to me. I hope it does to you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Grace Nichols.
Grace, are you there? Okay, we'll come back to Grace if she joins. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Diana Abney.
Stand by. We'll come back to that individual. Next speaker.
Patricia Sibilia.
Hi, this is Patricia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we have you.
Great. Thank you so much. As you know, my name is Patricia Sibilia, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Albany County, and I'm speaking on behalf of the League, but I'm also speaking as a resident of Cohoes. I really want to thank the sponsors for bringing forward Local Law B and the many months of their hard work that took place on it. I'm proud that our county legislature has shown leadership on environmental initiatives over the last several years and continues that with this work on this legislation. I'm assuming most of you were shocked to learn about the unlawful burning of PFAS chemicals of firefighting foam at Norlight. The fact that this occurred with a DEC official stationed at their site and next door to a public housing is extremely troubling. We need to ensure that this cannot happen again. I'm not sure that many of you have fully understood the many options on the recycling of tires. These alternatives to burning should be considered rather than allowing a corporation to increase profits at the risk of our citizens' health. Its location in close proximity to a school is disconcerting. The air pollution created by companies does not stay contained within their municipal boundaries. It impacts surrounding towns and counties. In addition to impacting the air we breathe, it ends up in our soil and our water. The League believes that citizens need to engage on all levels of government, local, county, state, and federal, to protect their rights. Likewise, all levels of our government need to perform in the best interest of its citizens.
30 seconds, Patricia.
I believe Albany County will again show leadership by passing Local Law B and not waiting for the state or federal government to take action. We thank you for spending time to focus on this important topic and hope that we will see tonight the passage of Local Law B. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Patricia. I believe we have Diane. Is Diane on?
Yes, thank you so much. I live in Greene County, Athens, New York, but I might as well dwell in Albany County's furthest points north or west. And that's because air pollution from Albany County will adversely affect citizens in Greene County more than persons living in other parts of Albany County. New Yorkers have been thinking about pollution in too narrow a context. Air pollution, as the previous speaker just said, is not just a county issue. It is at minimum a regional issue. The disease-rendering particulate matter does not stop at the New Baltimore County line. And also due to the prevailing winds, Columbia County can't escape the pollution either. We know that large particles can travel more than 20 miles, while smaller particles can travel hundreds of miles. We think New York smart in the waste department is needed now too. Collaboratively, the DEC and the DOH can map airborne and solid waste pollution on a regional basis. I ask you please to cast your vote for County Law B. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Peter Ivanovitz.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to comment tonight. I would like to speak on Local Law B. I'm a 30-year resident of Albany County. I'm also the head of Environmental Advocates of New York. We have made Albany County our home for the past 50 years. Air pollution makes people sick. It can also cut short lives, leading to a lot of different illnesses like heart attacks and people with heart disease. It can cause lung cancer. Air pollution also changes the structure and function of lungs and can really harm ability of people to fight off infections. We've seen this very acutely with COVID-19. In fact, research is out there suggesting that people who live in highly polluted areas die at a higher rate due to COVID-19 infection than those who live in areas of lower pollution. So I think you're doing the right thing by advancing this law, and I hope you do the right thing tonight by voting for it and putting it on the books. Thank you.
speaker.
Bonnie Goldsmith.
Yes, this is Bonnie Goldsmith. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
You can hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
It is my opinion that any company doing business in Albany County should be subject to the most stringent clean air law possible. Hasn't science proven that we humans live much healthier lives with the least polluted air and water and soil? Isn't it one of the roles of elected officials to protect the health of their constituents? I cannot understand how there could even be a question as to whether to vote for this law. Please do the right thing for the health of yourself, your family, your friends, and your neighbors. Vote in favor of the clean air law. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
David Van Leeuwen.
Good evening. I'm David Van Leeuwen, and I am the town supervisor in Bethlehem. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the Albany County Clean Air Law and to thank all the sponsors who have brought it before this county legislature. I am a strong believer in home rule, but I recognize that there are issues and activities that transcend municipal boundaries and require county, state, and even national action to protect public health and ensure public safety. The air pollution generated by incinerating waste is one of those activities, as the pollution generated in one community easily flows into others. Because of this, I strongly support the passage of the Albany Clean Air Law. I thank you all for your leadership in protecting our residents' health and promoting an economy that is both vibrant and safe. And I encourage all of you to please vote in favor of this important law tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you, David. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Mary Applegate.
Good evening and thank you, everyone. I'm Dr. Mary Applegate, a resident of Del Mar since 1992. As a public health physician specializing in maternal and child health, I urge you to pass the Clean Air Bill tonight. Air pollution such as smoke, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter poses a serious threat to the health of pregnant women, babies, and children. Exposure to chemical air pollutants early in pregnancy increases the risk of some of the most severe birth defects in infants, including spina bifida and anencephaly. Throughout pregnancy, a mother's exposure to pollution can restrict both her own and her fetus's oxygen levels, further increasing birth defect risks. Low oxygen can also lead to low birth weight and preterm birth. The three leading causes of infant mortality in New York State are birth defects, low birth weight, and prematurity, all related to air pollution. Please pass the Clean Air Bill to protect families in Albany County. And thank you so much for your attention.
Aaron Kelsey.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
My name is Aaron Kelsey. I'm the Area Environmental and Public Affairs Manager for Lafarge in Ravenna. I've been on before. I have vocally expressed that TDF is used worldwide. It's used in many other states. It is environmentally progressive. It is not stacking up a body count. There's not a lot of deaths or evidence that it's actually been doing something. The evidence is not really there. Now, there's a lot of evidence that has been put around contaminants of burning tires in the open, but that is not the case of what Lafarge has been permitted to do. Lafarge invested $500 million into a plant to make it one of the best advanced technology-based cement plants in the United States, and they operate in New York State with some of the toughest environmental laws that have any state oversight to them. So I disagree with the comments on stack testing as being a scam. We are required to instantaneously report any problems or exceedances on a number of different pollutants that are listed within the air permit. TDF is used again in many countries to combat the tire problem. And this law, if you pass this law, will restrict a plant that was overhauled to become a leading technically based plant, so it doesn't fix anything. And you're still going to have tires being shipped out of New York, generated at every place when you go to change your car tires. And where are those tires going to go? They're not. They're going to landfills. Are they being shredded up? Are they being stored illegally? I have recommended that this law be tabled and it be placed in the hands of a steering committee made up of Albany County legislature, business leaders, writers of the law, key industry representatives, because we need to have a balanced mixture of government representatives and individuals from the local community as stakeholders that can best provide the feedback, the research, the debate, examine references, and sift through all of the misrepresentation and false misleading information that has been going around. You need to check it yourself.
That's time, Mr. Kelsey. Did you want to finish your comment? So, Mr. Kelsey?
Yes.
If you want to finish your comment?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we have 7:45, but we have 3 more speakers. We're going to go ahead and let them speak just to make sure everyone is heard tonight. Then we'll begin immediately following the last speaker. Mr. Clerk, next speaker, please.
Judith Henk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thanks. I'll go quick. Very much appreciate your support for this law. I want to thank the co-sponsors who've worked tirelessly on this. The reason why Lafarge has made a substantial investment in new scrubbers at their facility is because the EPA sued them because they were violating the Clean Air Act in very serious ways for many years. I know that because I happened to be serving as EPA regional administrator at the time that this landmark Clean Air Act enforcement case was taken against Lafarge. There are better ways to handle tires than to burn them across the street from a public school. You can chip them, you can use them in recycled products. It's happening right now in upstate New York. There's a company in Latham that uses old tires. And I think after this law, I hope, passes, we should have a conversation in Albany County about how to get a vibrant tire recycling program off the ground. You can recycle chipped tires. You don't have to take the risky step of burning them. The Norlite issue is front and center because the company burned toxic firefighting foam for 2 years without telling anyone. And the reason why we need this law is because the state and the federal environmental agencies did nothing to stop that. The county legislature is closest to the people. And I think you're hearing that people encourage you to take this step to protect the environment and our air quality. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Mr. Clerk, next speaker.
Alexis Goldsmith.
Alexis, are you on? Okay, we'll go to our last speaker.
Mike Ewell.
Okay. Oh, there's still someone before me. Mike Ewell with Energy Justice Network, the attorney that wrote this law initially, the Queenan's Law, and also the one that's been talked about in Baltimore, and also one in Pennsylvania I'll mention. And I'm mentioning these because some of the legal threats being brought by Lafarge are focusing on the notion that there are constitutional problems that make them vulnerable. They're arguing that equal protection and due process are reasons why this can be sued over and as if they would win. But I wanted to make sure legislators were very clear that in both cases that there were federal court lawsuits over those very issues on similar laws in Pennsylvania and most recently in Maryland. Both federal courts upheld the law on equal protection and on due process. The one in Pennsylvania was upheld on every count. The one in Baltimore is still in litigation. There's an appeal going on, but all the issues that would apply to New York were upheld. There were some Maryland specific reasons it was shut down, and that's being challenged right now. So just wanted to give folks the confidence that there are not legal concerns as far as that goes. And to just affirm that tire burning is worse than coal, unlike what Lafarge says. EPA data and other industry data shows that except for 2 pollutants that tend to go down when you add coal to tires, there are 20 that tend to go up. So it's very important that we have these protections in place. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Yule. Mr. Clerk, I believe we have 2 more speakers. Next speaker, please.
Jonathan Kraus.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Jonathan. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Kraus. I'm a member of SSANE, Saratoga Sites Against Nordlife Emissions, and I'm supporting local law B and its plan to ban the burning of AFF at Nordlife facility in Cohoes. The burning of AFFF has released toxic carcinogens into the community for the past 2 years without the knowledge of local leaders. AFF is cited by the U.S. Fire Administration as a dangerous chemical leading to negative health effects like thyroid, testicle, kidney, and bladder cancers. It is of grave importance of both the residents of Albany County and local leaders that this type of act never happens again and that this law is passed.
Everyone's here but Margaret. Thank you, Jonathan. Mr. Clerk, last speaker.
David Pablo.
Mr. Hoblo? Mr. Hoblo? Yeah, I'm being asked to try Tom Morrissey.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, wow. I think I was being confused with David earlier. Anyway, let me read my comments here. My name is Tom Morrissey. My address is 1 Hunters Run Boulevard, Cohoes. I wish to speak in support of the Albany County Clean Air Law. I live in a neighborhood that is about 2 miles from Norlight. We often get acrid smoke from the Norlight incinerator. The smoke comes at night when the Norlight folks think we will not notice. We know that the smoke is toxic. Why else would Norlight burn at night if not to hide what they are doing? And now I hear that Lafarge wants to burn tires to fuel their kilns. Obviously, I think it's okay to do this, but we the people have to live in this environment. We have to breathe the air. We do not want to be poisoned. This air pollution is dangerous to the health of all neighbors. These 2 major league polluters is dangerous to anyone downwind, and everyone knows that the wind blows in all directions. My neighborhood is now a suspected cancer hotspot due to the number of cases. I care about my health, the health of my family and neighbors. I also care about the degradation of property values and think of the children. Some of you think you cannot enforce this law or that it is too expensive to enforce. It is not impossible to find environmental organizations to partner with you to enforce the law. The job of government is to protect its citizens. Please pass this law, the Albany County Clean Air Law, and I thank you for doing your job as legislators. Thank you for giving me this time to comment.
Barbara Heinzen.
Go on.
Oh, okay.
Barbara Heinzen?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Good. I am Barbara Heinzen. I live on the boundary between Queens and New Baltimore. My house is in Greene County. I have been working on the clean air law since Lafarge first wanted to burn rubbish from Connecticut in 2017. I have asked people at Lafarge for studies that show that there is no impact from burning tires or solid waste in their plant. They have never given them to me. I've looked for studies on the internet that say why this is safe, but all I find are studies from the cement associations and the tire associations of the United States. So these studies are not credible. When Lafarge when Lafarge announces that it will sue, it really is a statement of how weak their position is. Because they don't have a legitimate case to argue that this is safe, they're threatening to sue in order to protect their right, as they call it, to burn tires and pollute the air for the rest of us. I therefore support local law B and hope that all the legislators will vote in favor of it because it's a good law and it points to a new, much better future for Albany County and all the residents and people around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. The public forum is now closed. I'd like to call our August meeting to order. And I'd like to ask Mr. Reinhardt to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic
for
which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to give everyone a moment to unmute. And we'd like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Beston. Beston.
Here.
Rushke.
Here. Did you get it?
Chapman. Clay.
Here.
Larry.
Hang on a second, Mr. Clerk. Let's just wait till we hear everyone talk and affirm that they are present. So I think we left off with Brewski.
Brewski's here.
Okay.
Bergdorf.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Clay.
Here.
Leary. Here. Camiso.
Here.
Cunningham. Ms. Cunningham. Demolowitz. Mr. Demolowitz. Mr. Drake.
Here.
Capitolo.
Here.
Ethier. Mr. Ethier. Feeney.
Here.
Fine.
Here.
Grimm.
Here.
Andrew Joyce.
Here.
Raymond Joyce.
Here.
Kuhn. Kuhn.
Kuhn.
Langen.
Here.
Lekekis.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Morello.
Here.
Mayo.
Here.
McLaughlin.
Here.
McLean Lane.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Hurley.
Here.
Heater.
Here.
Plotsky.
Here.
Reedy.
Here.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Reichard.
Present.
Simpson.
Here.
Smith. Smith.
Here.
Bunny.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Whalen.
Here.
Willingham.
Here.
Ms. Cunningham.
Here.
Mr. Demolowitz.
Here.
Mr. Ethier.
You don't have Mr. Ethier.
39 present, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, did you hear me? I'm here.
We've got you,
Ms.
Joanne.
Cunningham.
We've
Okay,
got you.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's Bob Besson. Bob Besson, did you get me?
We've got you, Beston.
Yes.
All right. Well, I've been here the whole comments, but I've been fading in and out. So just
All
want to let you
afternoon.
know I was here.
Mr. Kuhn, are you on?
I am on. Can you not
Thank you.
hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, before we go into previous business, we'd like to continue into our second month of the Albany County Legislature's Beyond the Call COVID-19 Award. And we have two sets of recipients tonight. And I'd first like to ask Mr. Ward from Green Island to introduce us to the first set of recipients.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my honor tonight to award a group from Green Island that went beyond the call of duty during the COVID situation. And I'll give you a little example. Back in early March, the Green Island senior citizens were closed, just about everybody for COVID. And the senior citizen director, Jill Alex, fearful that some of her senior members would go without eating, tried to think of a plan to keep them fed during this event, this COVID situation. So she reached out to Mayor Ellen McNulty Ryan and the County Commissioner of Aging, Deb Rattano, and asked if they could distribute food throughout the village. And they weren't sure how much they would have to distribute, but they also needed volunteers to deliver these food every month. So they enlisted the support of a few, and there was plenty of volunteers, but there was two that stood out as they didn't miss a day. And that is Mark Ryan, who organized the distribution end of it, and Rachel Files, who was actually lost her job during COVID. And she's the cook at Franklin Plaza, chef at Franklin Plaza. And she decided to come over and prepare the meals. Mark prepared the distribution. And that team, Jill, Mark, Rachel, and also Shelby Harrington, and many volunteers, distributed 3,500 meals in little old Green Island over the course of the last few months. So I wish to thank them, and I'm proud to be here with my colleagues today to help present them, along with Chairman Joyce, present them with the Beyond the Call of Duty for COVID award. So thank you to all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ward. Jill, are you on the call right now?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is yours if you'd like to say something.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for the recognition. My team that was with me was great, and we were happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, on behalf of everybody. Okay, for our last recipient for the month of August, I'd like to recognize Mr. Simpson.
Yes, I'm proud to have nominated Dr. Brenda Robinson and Ms. Jare Gauze from the Black Nurses Association, Inc. For outstanding delivery of personal protective equipment, in addition to very serious medical attention given to the community over the past 5 years, and particularly in relationship to the COVID-19 epidemic. They have worked tirelessly 24/7 to address the needs of the community in the middle of this global pandemic, and as community first responders, have actually risked their lives to be in close contact on a daily basis with people who have been affected by the virus. So the last time I was at 112 State Street, Ms. Gauze had picked up a large supply of personal protective equipment to continue to provide it to the community. They've really been a model for outstanding heroism in the middle of this undaunting challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Dr. Robinson, are you on? I don't believe we have.
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. If you'd like to say a few words.
Yes, I would like to thank Honorable Simpson and the county legislators for taking time out to recognize myself and Ms. Jare Gauze. We work hard in the community because that's what we love to do. And it's not for recognition, but we do appreciate you taking time out to recognize our hard work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. And do we have another recipient on? final recipient? Gauze?
No, she's here with me. I'm speaking for the both of us.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you for
Thank
everything.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our COVID-19 Beyond the Call Award recipients for the month of August. I'd like to ask the clerk to read the first item under previous business. And if you're not speaking, please go on mute. Oh, stand by. We forgot the roll call. So we are going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
We did it.
We already did that.
We just did that.
Patrick's playing jokes on me.
We just did it.
All are present, Mr.
Clerk, first item under previous business, please.
Public hearing on proposed local law E for 2020.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing for local law E for 2020 passes unanimous. For 238, please.
Public hearing on proposed local law F for 2020.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing for proposed local law F for 2020 passes unanimous. For 239, please.
Public hearing on proposed local law G for 2020.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing for local law G for 2020 passes unanimous. For 240, please.
Public hearing on proposed local law H for 2020.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing for local law H for 2020 passes unanimously. And Mr. Clerk, before we go into current business, I'd like to potentially move two local laws that we have generated good public interest for, and we should start with local law B. Ask Mr. Reinhardt to entertain a motion to take local law B out of order.
I'll make that.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second.
Cam, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion to take local law B up first and take it out of order passes. Mr. Reinhardt.
Okay, I will make my introductory remarks, and then I think Rebecca has a technical amendment that I will ask her to read. It's very brief. But what I wanted to say is basically there are three reasons why I think we need this bill. Waste incineration is not the solution to our waste problems. Reduce, reuse, and recycle is the path to a sustainable future. The circular economy is the future, not extraction to landfill and incineration. My second point is that incineration of waste is an environmental justice issue. COVID-19 has highlighted the problem of pre-existing conditions and the health disparities that can exist near incinerators. And we've heard obvious testimony, much testimony to that effect. And third, the precautionary principle is that we don't allow burning of materials that have potential to do serious harm. When science either says something is definitely bad, or when there's debatable results and it's unclear, the do no harm principle is the one that we should follow as lawmakers. So that means don't allow things to happen if there is a lot of evidence that they may be doing harm to our citizens. So those are basically the 3 points that I want to make on this law. I don't want to reiterate so much of what people have already said in testimony and what everyone has heard. But I do want to ask Rebecca if she can read the technical amendment that we discussed at caucus last week.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to read.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Is the majority council on?
Yes, I am. The proposed technical amendment is to include the words any of to section 4, sub A, sub 3, sub 7, so that it reads facilities which maintain valid permits identifying any of the types of waste contained in this law, which are lawfully disposing of such types of waste through the combustion process pursuant to such permits in the 12 months preceding the effective date of this local law. The change is only those 2 words, any of.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm prepared to read the local law.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Demowitz,
I like to be added as a sponsor.
you got it.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, can you read local law B
I
before we
can't
vote on the amendment? Mr. Clerk,
Yes,
could you read local law B, please?
yes. A local law B for 2020. A local law of the County of Albany to prohibit waste burning and to protect the clean air of Albany County.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, on the amendment, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the amendment to local law B passes. Mr. Miller, I believe you had your hand raised.
Yes, I'd just like to rise virtually in support of local law B. As a trained educator, we learn how to speak all night long on issues we are greatly passionate about. I am greatly passionate about this. So I could speak all night, but we've heard a lot already. So I'll try to boil it down to just a couple of quick points and then 2 questions for the sponsor. I support this because it does protect and enhance clean air for all Albany County residents. And that's a key point that we should all be thinking about. And though straws and paper bags and tobacco can be partisan, I hope this be a nonpartisan issue for all of us because we all breathe the same air. This bill will prevent new facilities from being sited in the county and adding a lot of waste to our air, and also would prevent additional burning by those existing facilities that are in county now. You'll see why that's important in a moment. My third reason is, and it's important to me, is that this bill actually balances the existing commerce that's out there by allowing companies that presently exist to continue what they already are legally doing. And that's important. As environmentalists, you love to say, hey, we don't want any burning, but we have no intent to shut down what companies can already do. But we don't think there should be, I don't believe there should be any more sightings of that. One of the major reasons for that is that this is also, as you've heard, an environmental justice issue. Many of these facilities are already sited in areas of either urban or rural poor. And when new ones come in, they often look for that. You will not find these in high income areas because those areas can muster the resources to fight those facilities where these poorer areas cannot. So again, I do rise in support of this bill strongly. And I would like to ask Mr. Reinhardt 2 questions if I could. And Bill, is it intent that this bill bans the burning of AFFF at any facility anywhere in Albany County?
If this was not being done before under existing permits where that burning of that material was identified in that permit, then the answer is yes.
Thank you. And is it intent that this bill also prohibits the burning of tires anywhere in Albany County?
If they were not previously done during the period of the law and its passage, there's a time frame referenced in the law. And if it was not permitted during that time, then the answer would be yes, you cannot burn those going forward. So let me reiterate it this way. It is our intent to have this provision that Rebecca just referenced in the technical amendment is a grandfathering provision to apply to all facilities as they currently operate today, with no further expansion to other materials listed within the local law. Another way to put it is the following. If you are burning the waste identified in your permit during the 12 months prior to the law, you are exempt. However, if you attempt to burn any type of waste listed in the law that was not identified in your prior permit for the 12 months prior to the law, you are classified as a new waste burning facility under this law. So that was the objective here. And we think this is a good balance, as Matt said, between allowing people to continue doing what they are doing lawfully with permits that identify what they're doing and identify the materials that they're burning. But we would not want to have the expansion of burning of things that were not listed under prior use. As I explained, this is a balance between those that are grandfathered in and preventing, as one of the speakers in the testimony earlier said, we do not want the Capital District to become the incineration capital of the Northeast or of New York State.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Reinhardt. Just to remind everyone, if you want to speak, you can go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get you in the order.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman,
Stand
Mr.
by.
Chairman,
Mr. Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I was a sponsor on. Could I please be added, please? Thank you.
We got you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized.
Okay, Cunningham.
Thank you, and apologies, I'm on the phone for this meeting versus the Zoom. So you can't see me, but I've been listening. I am also a strong supporter and co-sponsor, original co-sponsor of this local law. A couple of points. First, I would just note that the public forum speakers provided a real glimpse about what the community thinks about this. And you heard folks very specifically and concretely pleading for local law B to be passed. The reason, because they understand that environmental health is public health. And, you know, one of the things that we've heard so eloquently is the link between the two. And I want to thank folks from my district, Paul Tick and David Van Leuven and others who spoke, because I think they gave us a glimpse at, you know, what the real life interests are in this local law. Just a couple of brief points. And one is, I've heard a lot of reasons why people aren't going to vote for this. And one that I find really interesting is that it's a local law, and if we're going to ban these things, we should do it at the state or federal level. I find that argument kind of perplexing because we are local legislators. Our job is to protect the public health of our constituents. So we have an issue right in front of us where we are trying to stop two entities, two corporations who have interests that are very different than local public health or local environmental health. And we are in the position to protect the public health. So why wouldn't we do that? So that's point number one. Point number two is I would predict that in 10 years or 20 years, we're going to have, if we don't pass this, a class action lawsuit where you're going to have individuals in the Ravenna school system or individuals like the gentleman who spoke from Cohoes, who's the cancer specialist, the scientist, who understand the link between the toxins that are being released by these corporations who have financial interests that are different than ours, who are will ultimately yield pulmonary disease, immune deficiencies, some sort of cancer even, that will be produced because of the noxious chemicals that are going into our air and water during this burning process. And then finally, I was struck by the Lafarge individual who spoke, and I just want to say one thing. If your business model is predicated on poisoning the constituents in your community, maybe you should get a different business model. I don't buy the argument that we have to sort of swallow this because of jobs and because of COVID and stresses on the economy. No, there's a better way, and our public health and environmental health are paramount. And I urge all of us to dig deep. If you're on the fence, dig deep and do the right thing today and pass local law B. Thank you so much to my fellow co-sponsors.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I would like to acknowledge the deeply held beliefs of the folks who have sponsored this and who are supporting it. I have as much of an interest in clean air in Albany County and throughout New York State as you do. But I think what you're doing here today is a classic overreach. DEC and EPA have issued countless permits. Someone said today in testimony that there wasn't even a seeker done on this. I have actually seen probably a 6-inch pile of papers and permits that shows that the company has the permit to burn tires. Now, hundreds and hundreds of DEC people in their air, water, and solid waste division, scientists who do nothing but this every day, actually approved and negotiated that permit. And I find it hard to believe that we in Albany County, we 39 people, have the ability to overturn federal and state regulation. And I've seen the document from EPA, which says that tire-derived fuels is a preferred method of dealing with tires. The other thing I'd like to mention is, as well-meaning as everybody is, I don't think anybody today got from one place to another with a horse and carriage with wooden wheels. They got in their car that had 4 tires and a spare. And when they replaced their tires, all they want to know is they went away. All 39 of us. No one takes them home and stacks them in their garage for perpetuity.
Yeah, I'm on a conference.
I went down to visit the plant, and I had an opportunity to talk with some of their scientists and engineers. And what I was told was that their existing permit, which allows them to burn coal, which is something that really nobody wants anyone to do, if you use tire-derived fuel, you would actually be reducing the amount of coal. The incineration would be at a higher temperature, and you would have less emissions. And that was the rationale for EPA and DEC to permit this. So I think there is emotion related to the science, but the people who are the experts in the science and who are charged with regulating the process have allowed this. And this is not just today over the last 3 years, but these permits have been in place through the previous presidential administration. So this has not been a political issue. It has become an emotional local issue. So I personally, I'm going to follow the science. The other thing I heard today, or excuse me, I alluded to it, was that there were no seekers done. Well, in committee, when I asked about the seeker, they said, yeah, there was something done. And 2 or 3 days later, I got a copy of a 2-page short form seeker that said that there were virtually no environmental concerns with this legislation. There are questions that says, does this affect landfills? Does this affect rivers? Does this affect streams? And they were all marked in such a way so that you would give you the impression that no, there was no impact on any of those things. It was an unsigned seeker. You know, we in Albany County, when we did the Soldier On project, we required an independent seeker to be done before you could even approve the lease. When we did the anaerobic digester, we had an independent, full-blown type 1 seeker done. So I'm telling you that I personally believe, and I have some experience with this, that the short form seeker is deficient. And I think it's going to lead to litigation. The litigation is going to be costly to the county, and I believe we will probably ultimately lose. because if we follow this train of thought, any 20 of us can get together and say, let's stop the landfilling at the Colony landfill. Let's ban out-of-state waste at the Colony landfill.
1 minute,
Let's
Mr. Bergara.
preserve the existing airspace at the Colony landfill for just the members of the Answers community. So we can obviously change anybody's permit if this is the precedent that we wish to set. I think it will be litigated. I think we will lose, and I think it will cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think, you know, people talk about Norlite
30 seconds.
And the cement plant. EPA came in and did their job and shut down Norlite. That's not happening anymore. They're not burning PFOA there anymore, because when it was brought to their attention, they went in and they determined that it was improper and they shut it down. They're the regulators. So for those reasons, I'm going to vote against this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I believe I heard Mr. Beston. Mr. Beston?
I think it was Gil.
Okay.
It was
no.
Gil, yeah, from the street here.
We'll get to him when we need to. I think he wanted to go on. I'm not sure, but we'll get to the bottom of it. Before we get on to the next speaker, which is Ms. McLaughlin, we did get a bit ahead of ourselves before. Mr. Reinhardt moved for an amendment and the majority council read it. So we need to take up Mr. Reinhardt's motion to amend local law B one final time. Could I have a motion to amend local law B?
Motion.
Motion by Ms.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Plotsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Opposed.
Amendment passes unanimous. Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin.
There was an
Stand by. Stand by. Who was that?
George Langdon.
Okay. Motion to amend passes 38-1. Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I too apologize for not being visible. I've got some different kind of connection tonight. But I was really honored to hear all of the different arguments and positions taken over the last 2 months or so from the residents in Queens and beyond about this proposal. It harkens me back to the time when I lived in Arbor Hill and we had to deal with the Answers plant on Sheridan Avenue. I remember coming out of my home on Beverly Avenue and seeing black soot all over my white car, or if it snowed, you could just see it in your snow in the community. So, and at that time, which is like, oh my God, we're going back 15, 20 years now, we were not listened to at the same level, but eventually the Answers plant was closed and incineration in the inner city of Albany was eliminated. So I applaud the effort of all of the residents in being steadfast and moving forward on this. And I just want to thank them for educating us again on a topic that is an issue of environmental justice, that is about healthcare, that is about preserving our future. So I just want to thank everyone for what they offered into this discussion.
Thank you. Ms. Plotsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to, again, stand in support of local law B. We also have received a resolution from the town of New Scotland in favor of local law B, and I'd like to thank the town for its efforts in supporting this. So that was it. I hope we can all support this and pass this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank the bill sponsor, Mr. Reinhardt, for his steadfast leadership and his coalition building and bringing together a lot of people who are very interested in protecting our environment. You know, we talk about the EPA, we talk about other entities that are supposed to be protecting our health, yet, you know, the EPA still allows coal sludge to be dumped in drinking water. You know, there was obviously the drinking water in Hoosick Falls. There's the Hudson River with the PCBs. There's housing that was put next to industrial sites. All at the time was the best wisdom at the time, even though it didn't make sense, right? We should sort of know, even if the EPA allows it, that dumping coal sludge in drinking water is probably a bad idea. And I think allowing the burning of tires, allowing the burning of a lot of these chemicals where we truly don't know the long-term effects of it throughout our county and into our drinking water is not a risk we're willing to take. And while I do understand we have to deal with tires at some point, it's not reached the crisis of emergency that we need to put our drinking water and our health at risk. And I think we as a legislature need to say, we don't need to be an experiment for for-profit companies that will leave when it's no longer profitable, but will leave us and our citizens with environmental issues that are long-term. So I will be strongly voting in favor of this, and I'm proud to be a sponsor of this.
Mr. Simpson.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, I want to restate what I stated in the past personnel committee meeting, in that, DEC, approved the Answers plant from 1981 to 1994. And right now we're in negotiations where we stopped OGS and NIPA from installing 2 frac natural gas generators at the 79 Sheridan Avenue plant. And we've moved quite a distance in terms of moving them in the right direction, but they still refuse to consider geothermal energy. And as far as EPA is concerned, we don't have to speak in the last 3 or 4 years. What their agenda has been totally politicized. And so the fact that regulatory agencies rule on certain things, we can't look at it outside of a political context and just look at the present pandemic we have and our feckless response to it to understand that federal regulation is not always what it needs to be. And the juxtaposition of fuel generated from tires as opposed to coal is a very, very bad comparison.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Simpson, was that all you had?
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Mr. Reinhardt for sponsoring this and all the people who came and spoke. I just want to point out that often what we do in our society is that we let these toxic sites poison people for long periods of time because we say an argument that we hear that we can't prove that that there's any impact. And we keep hearing people from Lafarge come in and say the EPA's approved this, the DEC's approved this. But what the problem is that we let people be poisoned until it's too late. And by the time we prove it, the proof is that people's lives have already been ruined. People have been poisoned for years. So we need to change the way we think about these things. We have to be proactive. We have to think about the future generations, that if we fail to pass this law, we're putting them at risk. So I urge everyone to support this law. I think it's extremely important. And I think, I think we have to stand up for the health of people throughout all of our communities in Albany County over the interests of corporate profits. And I also want to point out that the toxic and hazardous sites often impact communities of color and low-income communities at much higher rates than other communities. And it's often people that don't have power in government who are subjected to these situations. And so, that's, if you look throughout Albany County and the capital region, that's very much the case for these sites. So for that reason, in the interest of equity, ensuring that everyone has the ability to breathe clean air, that's really what this is about. And that's what this law.
Thank you, Mr. Fine. Mr. Drake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I always like to urge looking at the laws that we bring forth, in their entirety. And, into focus, there's a lot of emotional content I think it's been touched on here, and rightly so. But to focus on the issue, we're not talking about banning existing pollutants or even changing any of the existing permitting or emission standards at all. And frankly, we can't really do that. That's not our role. It's why we have one of the toughest set of environmental regulations in the country, or maybe the world, in New York State. And I think we can all be proud of that. But the New York State DEC, that's their responsibility. And quite frankly, we're talking about a couple of different things here. The Norlight plant is entirely different than the Lafarge plant. Norlight was violating laws. It was illegally and surreptitiously burning a material that they weren't supposed to burn, and the DEC shut them down. That's clearly justice. That's what should have been done, and it's outrageous what they did. The Lafarge company, from what I can understand, is operating well within its permit and its legal responsibilities at this time. Now, many people might agree, disagree with, well, are those reasonable? But that's not what's at stake here. We're not here changing the amount of pollutants that could be emitted. What we're doing here is talking about what a company may or may not introduce into their burning incineration facility and limiting new incineration facilities. It's kind of interesting, though, because Albany County actually incinerates. And I'm wondering, would we then as a county forego that on principle? But more importantly here, whether or not we pass this law, Lafarge and other incinerating plants will continue to burn material in order to make the products that their industry produces. In this case, it's a cement kiln. It's my understanding that it's one of the cleaner, or if not the cleanest, cement kilns in the country. And I get, and actually am with many people in understanding that that might not be good enough. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about limiting the emittance that they're allowed. What we're talking about is what they can burn. And again, it's my understanding that whether they burn tires or coal or oil or trash or something else, they can only pollute, or I don't know if that's the right word, but emit or whatever, emit pollutants, excuse me, in a certain level. When I think about coal burning, one thing that comes to mind is that's what we fought for 100 years to get rid of in many, many communities. Nobody wanted coal, particularly in the Midwest, because it was causing acid rain here in the Northeast and in New York State. And I don't think burning coal is a great alternative. And it's my understanding that if they burn the tires, it helps to further incinerate because it raises the temperature of the incineration. And when you think about reducing the amount of coal being burned, I think that's a positive. Coal is not mined here locally. Coal has to be trucked in, whether it's by barge to a truck or by train car, which has a huge carbon footprint. Whereas we have tires galore, in the United States, we dispose of 300 million tires a year. And when I say we, I mean collectively. Certainly we have our fair share of that with many, many motorists in New York State. We can be getting that source of fuel locally, and that carbon footprint could be significantly less while solving the problem of the landfilling. And in fact, Paul Miller was a guest speaker at the public comment period and mentioned about tire fires, and then he's absolutely right. But I'm viewing it in the context of all these stockpiled tires that are laying around everywhere. Either a legislator or a commentator from the public brought up that tires can be recycled. I think both did. And that is 100% correct. But I think the problem with all recycling right now is an oversupply of material and an undersupply of use. And if tires were so desirable for economically for recycling, it wouldn't cost $20 to $30 to dispose of one at your local landfill. I dispose of hundreds of tires a year that are left on properties and in the city streets, and we take them in and we pay money to safely dispose of them. But then they just go in a big pile, which of course could catch fire. So in my view, we have to look at this as, what are we trading here? So if the response of this law is we want to stop people from potentially burning tires in the same incinerator that they're already burning coal, I don't think we get ahead. I think it's a different conversation. And so at the end of the day here, this isn't going to do anything to stop whether or not there's a cement kiln across the street from a school. This has nothing to do with Norlight, because Norlight was violating the law as it stands today, and we're stopped, which is a triumph, because that's what should be done when you violate the law. So Lafarge, if that's going to be the example here, is a law-abiding corporation. We may not agree with their methods, we may not agree with the industry, but unless we're willing to live in adobe houses, we're going to need cement, and we're going to need it for the foreseeable future. So I am against this measure strictly on the grounds that I've mentioned here, is that we're not really changing anything as it relates to industry here. All we're doing is restricting the use of new fuels and new plants. So for those reasons, I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Mr. Efficoro. Mr. Efficoro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank the sponsor of this bill, Mr. Reinhardt, for introducing this fine legislation. Mr. Chairman, environmental justice is our responsibility, and we have a real obligation to the next generation to live a better world than we made. We have a responsibility to lead and do the right thing. The bill before us right now is about protecting our planet, and it is the right thing to do. As elected officials, we have an opportunity to effect real changes, positive changes. And sometimes it may be about making decisions that can be seen as an inconvenient good. A clean air law in Albany County may be an inconvenient good at this time, but it is the right thing to do. We have a real obligation to lead on environmental justice, and we have to lead. On that note, Mr. Chairman, I will be voting in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Efficoro. I don't any other hands raised.
Mr. Chair, please.
Mr. Chairman. Hold on, one at a time, hold on. I think I heard Mr. Clay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ethier.
Yes.
Okay, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
After listening to the lengthy discussions and the debates on this law, I want to support it, and I want to be added as a sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. We got you, Mr. Ethier.
Mr.
Mr. Kuhn.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kuhn?
Sure. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I want to rise in support of this law, but I want to start out by saying that I think the points that Mr. Drake and Mr. Bergdorf make are thoughtful, and I think that one of the things that we need to think about is what to do with tires isn't necessarily an easy issue, and it's an issue that we're going to need to confront on a going forward basis. But that having been said, this law isn't just about Lafarge, and it's not just about Norlight. It's about the ability of the legislators of this county to have a say in air quality and air pollution issues. And we have the ability under the environmental conservation law the state has empowered us to have a role in determining what sorts of materials are acceptable to be combusted in our county. And I know that there's been some talk of, well, should the county legislature really be legislating on this, or should we really just defer to the state and the federal government? And I think, no, the law has been written because it's understood that people at the local level have an understanding of what the people in their community are comfortable with from a public health and from an air pollution standpoint. And I think it's very clear that there is a consensus basically amongst the people who are interested in this issue that combusting waste is not something that we are comfortable with in Albany County, and we have the power and the authority as legislators to decide that we don't want to have waste combusted in this county, whether it be tire-derived fuel or other things, and we're perfectly within our rights to make that determination. I think we've seen over the last 6 months, one of the things that's really caught my eye is that the fatality rates, the mortality rates associated with the pandemic are significantly higher in those parts of the world with poor air quality. And so this is a public health issue. And so to the extent that we can do things to protect the air quality in our community, I think we really need to do that. I think we need to err on the side of reducing air pollution and protecting public health. And so it is, and because I do think that most of the arguments that I hear opposed to this bill are more legal as opposed to public health arguments. And I think that's really, I think the bill is completely defensible from a legal perspective, but I think its real justification is from a public health standpoint. And because we are charged with protecting public health, I think this is the right thing to do, and I'm happy to support this bill. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is
Mr. Lane.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for recognizing me. I greatly appreciate it. One of the comments, well, several of the comments tonight have surrounded being emotional about this issue. And I want to say that, and I want to do this in the kindest way possible because I consider myself friendly with many of the people who've even said this statement. This was a statement that was made after Newtown. Being emotional is something that basically voids the argument of the other individual as being correct or being valid. And quite honestly, I am bothered by it, but I totally understand your right to say it. I want to say that the statements made by Mr. Simpson and Ms. McLaughlin tonight, I am completely in agreement with, because what had happened at that answers plant, there was no chance for local intervention. And what had happened did not have that opportunity, like we have this opportunity here. And I also echo the statements of my colleague, Barrow Efekoro and Jeffrey Kuhn, who I felt really could say this more eloquently than I. We have an opportunity here. That opportunity at the Answers Plant was not presented to the local community. This does tend to happen in areas that have a lower income base and where there is less than an opportunity to fight it. And that is not the only reason I'm supporting this legislation. However, I am a little saddened that there are individuals that will say, well, let's not be emotional. I am emotional about my children's health. I am emotional about my immune compromised husband's health. I am emotional about my 80 and 90-year-old parents' health. And I would hope we would all be emotional about that. And I thank everyone for speaking. I do think that several of my minority colleagues actually brought up very good points that I've thought about. Both Mr. Drake and both Mr. Bergdorf brought about excellent points. I just would hope that we would not use the term emotional. Let's not be emotional about this, to somehow say that, well, if you're going to be emotional, but I thank you for your time and I thank you for the opportunity to be recognized.
Mr. Ricard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo the comments made about Mr. Reinhardt. I appreciate his efforts on this matter and for talking to me a couple times about it. Many constituents in my legislative district and throughout Albany County have contacted me with regard to this legislation. And as always, I thank them for their comments. In turn, when deciding how to vote on a measure that is before our legislative body, the thoughts of my constituents are always of utmost importance. Throughout this legislative process, as many of you are aware, I had several questions regarding this legislation, which have been addressed. As a result, I asked that my name be added as a co-sponsor of Local Law B for 2020. In turn, I will be voting in the affirmative for it this evening. I am hopeful that if this legislation is passed, it will help to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the constituents that I represent, along with the residents of Albany County as a whole. Thank you.
Mr. Reedy.
Mr. Chair, this is George Langdon.
We'll get to you next, Mr. Langdon.
Sure.
Mr. Reedy.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just want to rise in support of this legislation. Proud to be a co-sponsor of it, and I don't think I can say anything to match what's already been said much more eloquently than I could voice. I do want to thank Legislator Reinhardt and all of the sponsors that worked hard on putting this bill together. And I do want to thank the advocates who've been pushing for this legislation as well. And so proud to vote in the affirmative tonight, and hope as many or all of my colleagues will join me in that.
Mr. Langdon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate this. I've listened to a lot of the comments, really tried to be attentive to things said in committees. I've attended all the committee meetings, really trying to hear everybody's side of this. I would like to state that, many of the comments that have come in, I would guess, and you guys could correct me, but there has been maybe 50 different people that typically come every month or to every situation and make comments. And some of those people actually don't even live in this region, not only the county. This was a issue that largely put me in this elected body. Over 1,000 people in the region that this cement plant is in voted for me. And largely this was the issue that they were concerned about, because the clean air bill was being brought before this body last year. So while I understand that, there are 50 people or so that are coming out to these meetings, but there's 1,000 people in just this little district that I live in that voted for me because they want to see this process continue. My concern is I don't feel like many of the people that are speaking in favor of this right now, none of you, I happen to know, none of you have gone down to that cement plant to evaluate what they're actually doing. None of you have gone down and looked at the science and looked at the facility. None of you attempted to do any of that, and yet you're going to support this. And I understand they say that they've taken care of all the legal issues, but let me just read a comment from the judge in Baltimore. Mr. Atwell said that his laws stood the ground, but in Baltimore it did get shot down, and I understand they're appealing it. But one of the comments the judge, he went through a long dissertation along what Mr. Bergdorf was talking about, and how the federal government and the state really do a lot to regulate these kind of pollutants and make sure that things are being done properly. And his comment, and I'll just read one sentence here. He says, allowing a locality to undermine this regulatory process by submitting its judgment in place of the decisions made by the federal and state government is not consistent with the Federal Clean Air Act. So I don't see where we've done anything to protect ourselves from a lawsuit. I'm not opposed to us trying to come up with something, but let's really look at the science and not just look to people that are complaining about this. This permit was issued to them. They have it. They did do a seeker, and their permit was actually issued by the Obama administration EPA Actually, when Judith Enns happened to be in that process there, I believe. So we need to really reconsider this, in my opinion. We're looking at what I believe it's about a $30 million shortfall in our budget this year. And here we're getting ready to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees that to me is unnecessary. If we would take the time to do the proper seeker, everybody says, oh, we've been working on this for a year. Then why haven't we done the proper seeker? Why haven't we taken the steps where we could actually defend ourselves in court? Because right now, this looks like a railroad job. Some of the comments you've made, you guys have all made tonight, are going to be used against us in court, that this was to earmark and target Lafarge and Norlight. And this is going to hurt us. And I do believe we'll end up losing this lawsuit in the end, even after spending a pile of money. And I just don't think it makes sense. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. Let's have a seeker done. Let's do the right things and do it the right way and really look at the science, not just listen to people's whims, because there's just as much science that disproves what they say is what's been there. So those are my comments. I just ask you guys to really reconsider this, to really look at the facts of these things. I'm not opposed to talking about how this should be done and moving forward with it, but I think we're making a big mistake here.
Ms. Willingham.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to say that I do respect all of the work that has been done. This piece of legislation has been moved forward after much consideration by quite a few people. And that was the initial reaction to this as far as the body of the legislature. It was my reaction to the fact that there were legal issues. The legislation was pulled back to try to address that. The concern was that the legislation had been drawn up by special interest groups without the consent, or the examination of majority counsel and other the county attorney and so forth. I believe that after months of spending hours and hours reviewing what was wrong with the initial legislation that was put forward, that we've probably come up with the best product that we are going to do in regards to legislation. I too remember very well what happened with the Answers Plan. For years, my youngest son, blamed me for the fact that he had asthma very badly. And it was more than 20 years ago. It was almost 30 years ago. And at that time, we were fighting New York State. That's who we were fighting. We weren't fighting another company, but we were fighting the government. And I remember very well Hayward Burns and Aaron Mayer and all of the hours and hours that they put in regards to trying to get that Answers plant closed. The reason why it was closed was because that soot and that ash fell on Loudonville and other places such as that. And once we had the consent and the agreement of our white neighbors, and they raised the alarm, then something was done. I think now what we do see is legislation that brings in the South End, it brings in the suburbs, with Bethlehem and Del Mar, and it brings in the town of Queens and all that they have had to go through. Sometimes we may not get it completely right the first time around, maybe even the second time around. But I think right now, with all of the research that has been done on this, I am going to support this. I think sometimes we do have to err on the side of caution, and that's what we're doing right now. If it's wrong, then we'll find out later. But if we are right, it gives Lafarge and other companies that would come after them the understanding that they will have to do their homework. They're going to have to change the way in which they do business. So I would like to be added as a sponsor. And I thank all of the hard work that was done by Ms. Cunningham, Mr. Reinhardt, and others for the hours that they spent on this. Thank you.
Okay, I see no other hands raised. Mr. Ward.
I just want to be added as a sponsor, Mr. Chair.
Gotcha. Mr. Feeney? You need to unmute the majority leader. Mr.
Add me
Feeney?
as a sponsor, please. Did you get that?
We got you.
Thank you.
Do you have enough hands raised? Mr. Clay?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you got me as a sponsor, Carolyn. Thank
Ms.
you.
McLaughlin, we got you. Mr. Clay?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to prolong this. I would like to move that we close the debate on this issue, but I'll just say a few words. First of all, I'll encourage all the members of LBC to vote in favor of it. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when they talk about the one of our colleagues, Allison said that we should not make this an emotional issue. And I tried hard not to do it. I wasn't going to say anything. My family lived on Orange Street, 2 blocks away from the answer plant. I lost my family to cancer down on Orange Street and they attributed that to the answer plant. You know, and ironically enough, I was working for the agency that oversaw the answer plant. You know, not in a position of any kind of a position that controlled the plant, but certainly I think I agree with those of my colleagues who say, if this is a mistake, then I would support making the mistake, erring in the you know, on the side that we may have done the right thing to protect people's lives. But again, I'm not going to get into any of the arguments and a discussion on this. In fact, I shut down a long time ago on this issue. So I would encourage, first of all, add me as a sponsor. And number two, after having said all of that, I would certainly suggest that we close the debate on the issue.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion to call the question has been called. Seconded by Mr. Peter.
Call the question.
And the debate. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Long roll call on local law B as amended.
Weston. Weston.
In favor.
Brewski.
Yes.
Bergdorf.
Opposed.
Chapman. Chapman. Clay.
Yes.
Cleary.
Yes.
Camiso.
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Kamalowitz.
Yes.
Rick.
Sorry, it was muted. No.
Efacoro.
Yes.
He's here.
Yes.
Meany.
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
Grimm.
Yes.
Joyce Andrew.
Yes.
Joyce Raymond. Ray. Kuhn.
Yes.
Langen.
No.
Lukaku.
Yes.
Lockhart.
No.
Moriello.
No.
Moriello. Mayo. Mayo.
Hello?
Mayo.
Yes. Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Thank you. McLaughlin.
Yes.
McLean Lane.
Absolutely, yes.
Miller,
Enthusiastically, yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Hurley,
Yes.
Peter,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Slotsky,
Absolutely, yes. Thank you all.
Reedy,
Proudly, yes.
Reinhardt,
What other adjective can I throw in there along with a double yes?
Stupendously.
Rickard,
From the caring community of Cohoes, I vote yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Smith,
Love it.
Connie,
Yes.
No.
Ward,
Yes.
Whalen,
No.
Willingham,
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely.
Ms.
Could you-
Chapman, Norma,
Yes. Can you hear me?
I got you now.
Yes.
Moriello, Frank. Moriello,
No.
thank you.
Local law B passes 32-7.
Mr. Chairman?
Woo!
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, I have 8.
Hello?
Stand by. I'd like the clerk to go ahead and report out the vote.
Bergdorf, Drake, Langdon, Lockhart, Moriello, Mayo,
No.
Smith.
I was a
Whalen.
yes. I was a yes.
Yes,
Smith
I
is a
was-
yes.
thank you very much.
Mayo is a yes.
Yes, man.
Thank you. 32-7.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Local law B passes 32-7. Okay, this local law, I'm gonna ask everyone to go back on mute if you're not speaking. Okay, as with local law B, we have interested parties watching out for local law D. Can I have a motion to take local law D out of order?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bruschi, second by Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion to take local law B out of order passes. Unanimous. Mr. Clerk, please read local law B.
Local
D.
law of the County
D.
of Albany, New York,
D.
amending local law
Stand by.
2010, and authorizing the county executive to negotiate a lease agreement for property owned by Albany County with the Shaker Heritage Society, not to exceed 50 years, subject to the approval of the Albany County Legislature.
Okay, Mr. Bruschi.
I want to thank all of my co-sponsors. We've had a real outpouring of support for this law. It's been a real bipartisan effort to get this passed. This law, what it's going to do is it's going to allow a local society in charge of preserving and protecting an important artifact of our county's history to apply to get the grants that they need to do much needed capital upgrades and preserve this history and continue to work to bolster tourism into our county. I ask for your help in passing this law. I want to thank all of the co-sponsors, of which there are so many, for their names on here. I know that there are several people that had asked to have their names added to this law. That's not reflected yet in our online system, but all your requests have gone to the clerk, and we will make sure that your names are going to be added to this law.
Mr. Bergdorf.
I want to second what Nate said. This really has been this year a bipartisan effort, and I appreciate the many colleagues from both caucuses who have gone on this bill, and I assume that the final record will reflect those of us who have asked to be listed as sponsors. But this should be a gem for the town of Colony, and it should be a great asset to the county. So thank you very much, and I'll be voting in the affirmative.
I have no other hands raised. Any other comment?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ethier.
Yes, I want to be added as a sponsor.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Camiso.
Frank Camiso. Yes, I'm going to be voting against this, and I'd like to state the reasons why. Number one is I'm concerned with the liquor law liability. If there's a function on those grounds, the county has the deep pockets, and I'm very concerned about that. I am also concerned that we're giving a 50-year lease, and 50 years is much too long to give someone a lease. I don't believe it's needed to get grants. As a matter of fact, I see one municipality just recently getting a large grant, and they did not have a 50-year lease. So with that, I'm concerned, especially with our financial condition. We're getting no money for this lease, and I'm very, very concerned.
Ms. McLean Lane.
I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for offering me an opportunity to speak. I have to differ with my colleague, Legislator Camiso. I worked in the nightclub bar restaurant industry for over 10 years in the city of Boston, which has the strictest liability laws in all of the country. And I actually managed all of their licensing. I managed their insurance, and I managed our insurance when what we would do, and I also ultimately did this in New York State, we would manage the insurance for entities when somebody would rent out a facility. All the entity needs to do is offer a certificate of insurance. New York State does this. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts does this. In fact, this is done routinely throughout the United States. They can look for the deep pockets all they want, but unfortunately, once there is a certificate of insurance involved, therefore, that is the insurance that is at issue. Now, unfortunately, this can get confused sometimes where somebody will file a lawsuit, but I am pretty sure that the Shaker facility is not massively over serving people and getting involved in massive stuff, but also they are an entity on a county-owned facility that has its own insurance, and there is another level of insurance involved when it comes to individuals renting out the facility. And my wonderful colleague, Mr. Camiso, is well aware of this. And the ability to come back to Albany County does not exist because you cannot pierce the corporate veil that way. And in addition, we have an unbelievable historic entity here in upstate New York and in the town of Colony, which the fact is that we only have a couple really historic entities in the town of Colony, even though we are so deeply steeped in history. And I would think that we would want to make sure that this entity is preserved, and also not having to be completely supported by county dollars but also being supported like by private dollars. For example, the Prine House, which is another colony entity, which also has entities come onto it, does catering, they do liquor service, etc., and they provide a certificate of insurance. So I would hope and encourage every single one of my colleagues to ensure that this absolute treasure that we have in Albany County continues to thrive and hopefully thrives more, especially in the situation we are in right now. I thank you very much for the time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to firstly thank the sponsor of this, Mr. Bruschi, for going about this in such a bipartisan fashion as well and getting support from so many of the legislators here. I will be voting in favor of this, as I think the Shaker Heritage Site is a historic jewel amongst many other historic jewels that we have in the county, and the legislature should do what it can to promote historic tourism and historic preservation. And I think this support for the Shaker Heritage Site is extremely important, not only for the town of Colony, but the county as a whole. And I want to thank again the sponsor for his work on this, as well as all those who are supporting it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Plotsky?
Just a quick word that part of why this location needs the repair it does is obviously the lack of grants. This sort of support from the legislature will allow them to get the funds they desperately need. I'd also like to see it brought up to the level of other Shaker Heritage Society locations that are really living museums, historical preservation at its pinnacle. They're a great way to preserve the culture and draw tourists to the area. So thank you. And I know I've already asked to be a sponsor, so I just want to make that clear. And thank you. I look forward to this passing tonight. Thanks all.
Mr. Bergdorf.
I just wanted to call everyone's attention to Section 2 of the resolution. This is not a guaranteed 50-year lease. It says that the Albany County with the Shaker Heritage Society for original term not to exceed 50 years, said lease term to be coterminous with any initial funding repayment term, which means that if they got a nice grant that had a 30-year repayment term, you could potentially have a 31-year lease. And that lease, the lease terms have to come back to the Albany County Legislature. So the 50 years is an outside mark. And if the Shaker Heritage Society does a good job of putting together funding streams in 25 and 30 years, it could be a 25 or 30-year lease. But my fear is somewhat along the lines of Frank's, but I'm still supporting it and I'm sponsoring it, and I like the way the resolution was written, was that if we find ourselves 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and there's no grant money that has been received, have we locked up that land for an additional 35 years? And I hope that the county attorney in drafting a lease will put in some sort of a safeguard so that the county, if there is no development, if there is no grants, there would be some sort of a reverter clause back to the county. So, but by no means are what we're passing here a guaranteed 50-year lease. So I just wanted to make Mr. Commissa or make all our colleagues aware of that.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised. Any other comments?
Actually, Mr. Chair, can I make a comment?
Sure.
Just one quick thing. After our committee discussion on this, I did take a drive out to the Shaker site just to kind of see what it looks like now. And I just would say that it seems like this is a real opportunity for the county. You know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done at the site, and anything that we can do to support the Shaker Foundation and the Shaker site in kind of promoting itself, I think is in the best interest of the county to do. I would encourage others to kind of take a ride out there to kind of see it, you know, see what it looks like now, but I'm in full support of this. I think we need to do more, not less. I don't think that the county is especially vulnerable, as has already been discussed. I think it's a real opportunity, and I'm in full support, and I appreciate my colleague, Mr. Brewski's efforts to try to figure out creative ways to, you know, put them on a path to solicit and seek and obtain additional grants. So thank you for introducing this, and I'm a proud supporter, and if I'm not a sponsor of this, please add me. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got you. Mr. Reinhardt. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to follow up on something that Matt Peters said, talking about how we should be supporting historical sites, historical tourism. I've often thought this in terms of thinking about the rail trail that goes through my district and several others, out in Bethlehem all the way down to the south end and all the way out to Voorheesville. I have many thoughts there I've shared with some of you. But when you think about our county, we have many opportunities like this. You know, Cohoes has a wonderful history, and we could look at that. We could look at things in Albany and say, how can we build on this to really encourage more local tourism? And I think local tourism is something that's a growth industry right now when people are sort of shy about getting on airplanes. I think we should really kind of look at this as a unique opportunity, but also, I mean, with the Shakers and the history there, but we should also be thinking about how can we encourage more tourism locally, taking advantage of the wonderful histories that we do have here in Albany and the Capital District, Albany County and the Capital District. And I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that Matt's comments made me think that there are many opportunities like this that we can look at beyond this one. But I am definitely supporting this because I think this is it makes just a whole lot of financial sense for us to try to go after other people's money to help develop this resource.
I see no other hands.
Andrew?
Yes.
Frank, if I may.
Yes.
I don't think my objection to this here is against the Shakers at all. I don't believe that the Shakers initially ever wanted liquor on the premises. And my objection is the liquor law liability, minor stuff, could take it out. And of course, what I stated before still stands. We have to watch ourselves. This could be a very, very sad situation if somebody goes out of there some night, 1 o'clock in the morning, and is blind, and they have an accident. We just seen one in Schoharie not too long ago, which every deep pocket has been pulled in. So with that, I'm voting against.
Can I make a quick comment, Mr. Chairman? Quick comment, Mr. Chairman. Yep. I just want to thank my colleague, Mr. Reinhardt, for giving a little acknowledgement for my city of Cohoes. It's truly appreciated. I want to promote tourism in my community too. Van Skyke Mansion, the Canal Bed, the Music Hall, they're all my legislative district. So I'd appreciate it if you guys want to come and visit. So thank you.
I believe I heard Mr. Brewski.
I can make a quick comment again about the lease, just to run through the liquor thing one final time. The shaker site does not itself serve liquor. It engages an outside vendor, Two Shades, which is a respected caterer that handles events from the State Museum to the Prine House. Just as we don't have a problem with the State Museum or the Prine House having events there, nor should we believe that the shaker site is somehow different and that we should, we live in a world that has weddings at these places. The Two Shades carries insurance. On top of that, the shaker site requires that all people that use it for these purposes carry insurance that specifically names our county as an additionally insured. So we are well covered there. The last time I went through the airport was a long time ago, given COVID, but that's a county-owned property right across the street from the Shakers that serves liquor and yet somehow can survive. And so I'm quite confident that the concerns that my colleagues have brought up regarding liability have been fully vetted to any reasonable satisfaction, and that they share our concern for the prudent management of our resources. And it is only because I have such great confidence in their management that I wrote this law, and why so many have signed on to help co-sponsor it.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. O'Brien.
Joe, you're on mute.
Oh,
Motion
to move, please.
Okay. Long roll call on local law D, please.
Weston,
In favor.
Ruska,
Yes.
Bergdorf,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Clay, Cleary,
Yes.
Demiso,
No.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Demalowitz,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Dr. Foro,
Yes.
Keith here. Keith here. Faney,
Yes.
Fine,
Yes.
Grimm,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Hume, Langdon,
Yes.
McPeckus,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Moriello,
Yes.
Mayo,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Clean Lane,
Absolutely, yes.
Miller,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Burley,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Compromise the agency's independence.
Reedy,
Yes.
I'm a yes. I didn't hear you call my name. Just an internet glitch.
Reedy,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Reichert,
Here,
Simpson,
Yes.
wait,
Smith,
I got it. I'm voting yes. Yes.
Cunning, Peter,
Wait, what? Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Whalen,
He voted yes.
Willingham,
Yes.
And I vote yes too.
Mr. Eath here. Gill,
What the heck? Oh my God.
Gill.
Oh.
Ms. Plotsky,
Yes.
we got you.
Thank you.
Did you
Peter,
get my
Honey,
vote? Yes.
thank you. Gill, Eath here.
Yes.
Thank you. 38-1,
How many times am I gonna say yes?
just once.
Just once.
Thank you all very, very much.
5 times.
Really loud.
Timing is everything.
I didn't hear Gil.
Okay, let's go, folks. Stand by. Local law D passes 38-1.
Thank you all very much.
Clerk, first item of current business. $244.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
First item of current business, please.
244,
Correct.
authorizing the submission of a grant application regarding Capital District Trails Plan.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For 244 passes unanimous. 245, please.
Amending 2020 Department of Public Works budget.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? For 245 passes unanimous. 246, please.
Authorizing an agreement with Tracy Road Equipment Inc. regarding the purchase of a 2021 Western Star dumpster truck.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For 246 passes unanimous. 247, please.
Authorizing the submission of a grant application regarding 2020 SNAP process and technology improvement grant for implementation of a centralized control center.
All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, I raised my hand.
Go ahead, Mr. Bergdorf.
I'm going to support this, but I need to point out what I see as some inconsistencies. We're using federal tax money, which is going to pay for 5 employees for 2 years with the condition that we keep them on after the 2 years at a cost of $387,000 a year. We've been told that we're $50 million in terms of a deficit. And generally, when you have a technology improvement grant, you use less people rather than hire more people. So I hope there's a backstory here where we saved that $387,000 in perpetuity, because otherwise we are adding to our long-term budget. And if we had more time, we would have asked the county executive for more details, but I assume that he's not going to want to add to any potential deficits in the out years. So I'm going to vote yes.
All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Grant?
Yeah, I just want to underscore that point if I can, Mr. Chairman. Typically, when we get federal or state grant money to hire employees, it's with the understanding to the employees that their jobs will not remain if those grants disappear. That's not the case here. We're getting federal money for 2 years, and then the county's being asked to pick up the tab, at least partially pick up the tab after those 2 years. This is something that is usually not done by the county. And of course, as Mr. Bergdorf says, especially now where the county executive mentioned a week or so ago that he notified the unions there might be the possibility of layoffs. We're actually hiring 5 people, and that's going to be an encumbrance down the road after 2 years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. As chair of the Social Services Committee, I just want to comment, we're in a pandemic right now, and a lot of people are facing food insecurity. This is exactly the type of thing that we should be doing. This is going to increase access to food stamps, a crucial program, especially during this time. So even though we may have to take on some of the costs after this grant is up, I think it's a very worthy investment.
Mr. Drake?
Yes, we really haven't had an opportunity to look fully into this, but it would seem that if we're not going to get this grant money for some time, it may not even benefit us during the increased, it appears there might be some increase, well, not might be, there is an increased use of this need, this service to county residents. If we don't get this money and do this in a relatively short period of time, it would appear to be for naught. And at the same time, it looks like we're committing to staff that we're going to want to take care of as a county going forward without the funds to do so. So I have a lot of trepidation here. Can anybody answer the question as to timing and efficacy of this?
Apparently not. Apparently not, Mr. Drake. What you had to say?
Yes, well, for those reasons, I have a lot of reservations about committing to the long-term budget, but I'm hoping someone's testimony will help me understand better whether this will actually help us during the time of increased need. And as the levels go back down, rather than investing in technology, it appears we've invested in staffing. So that gives me concern.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor?
Well, Mr. Chairman, sorry, we can move on to a vote.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Graham? Who else is in opposition to 247?
I'm opposed. Drake.
Graham, Hurley, Drake.
Can I ask a question about it?
Langdon. Okay, stand by. We're going to do a long roll call on this, but I just heard someone had a question. Who had the question?
Sorry, it was me, Chris Smith.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
I should have asked
What's
this
the question?
committee, but would this take away from any Cornell cooperative extension jobs?
These are probably good questions to be asked while this item was in committee.
I just thought somebody would know off the top of their head. No big deal.
Okay. Okay, long roll call on 247, please.
Heston,
Yes.
Brewski,
Yes.
Bergdorf,
Reluctantly, yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Clay, Bill, Cleary,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Malowitz,
Yes.
Drake,
No.
Coro,
Yes.
Geisier,
Yes.
Meany,
Yes.
Fine,
Yes.
Grimm,
No.
Andrew Joyce,
Yes.
Raymond Joyce,
Yes.
Hune, Hugh, Langen,
No.
Lakakis,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Mariello,
Yes.
Mayo,
Yes.
McKnight, McLaughlin, Carolyn, McLean Lane,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Hurley,
Muted.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Jeff, you're muted.
Hurley, Peter,
Yes.
Plotsky,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Reinhardt,
Yes.
Reichert,
Bill Rickard votes yes.
Simpson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Honey,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Whalen,
Yes.
Willingham,
Yes.
Bill Clay,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Ms. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mr. Purley,
No.
thank you. Looks like 35-4, Mr. Chairman.
247 passes 35-4. For 248, please.
Authorizing agreements regarding transportation for children with special needs to education and therapy programs.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 248 passes unanimous. 249, please.
Amending the 2020 Department of Children, Youth, and Families budget.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 249 passes unanimous. 250, please.
Amending 2020 Department of Youth, Children, and Family budget.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 250 passes unanimous. 251, please.
Authorizing submission of grant application to New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation regarding the maintenance of snowmobile trails in Albany County.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 251 passes unanimous. 252, please.
Adopting New York State Archives retention and disposition schedule for local government records.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For 252 passes Unanimous. 253, please.
Amendment Resolution 30 for 2019 regarding a second upgrade quality improvement and caseload reduction grant.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 253 passes unanimous. 254, please.
Authorizing agreements regarding Albany County insurance coverage.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For 254 passes unanimous. For 255, please.
Authorizing a lease agreement with David Villam regarding Suite 118 at 112 State Street.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 255 passes unanimous. 256,
Authorizing an agreement with New York State Office of Protection Services and Sports regarding Capital Region Open Access Engagement Program and amending 2020 Department of Mental Health.
all those in favor? Opposed? 256 passes unanimous. 257, please.
Authorizing an agreement with Cornell Cooperative Extension regarding a Healthy Neighborhoods Program grant.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 257 passes. And 258, please.
Authorizing an agreement with New York State Department of Health Research, Inc. regarding public health emergency preparedness program.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 258 passes. Unanimous. 259, please.
Authorizing an agreement with New York State Department of Health regarding the drinking water enhancement grant program.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimous. 260, please.
Authorizing a grant application and agreement with New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee regarding the General Highway Safety Grant Program.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 260 passes unanimous.
Authorizing an agreement with St. Peter's Health Partners for closed point of dispensing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 261 passes. For 262, please.
Authorizing the Albany County Sheriff to consider out-of-county applicants for positions of full-time and part-time paramedics and full-time and part-time emergency medical technicians for the county's Advanced Life Support and EMT program.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 262 passes unanimous. 263, please.
Authorizing the Office of Immigration Assistance to consider out-of-county applicants for the position of immigration counsel.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 263 passes unanimous. 264, please.
Amending 2020 Sheriff's budget.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 264 passes unanimous. 265, please.
Authorizing submission of a grant application to New York State Canal Corporation regarding reimbursement for marine patrol service.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 265 passes unanimous. For 266, please.
Authorizing an agreement with New York State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services regarding 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant.
To note my abstention.
Got it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes with one abstention. 267, please.
Public hearing on proposed amendment to capital program for 2020-24.
All those in favor? Opposed? 267 passes unanimous. 268, please.
Public hearing on proposed Albany County capital program for 21.
All those in favor? Opposed? 268 unanimous. 269, please.
Authorizing the submission of a grant application and agreement with New York State Board of Elections regarding New York State Have a Cares Act and amending the 2020 Board of Elections budget.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
For 269 passes unanimous. For 270, please.
Authorizing the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation for long-term care regarding coronavirus emergency support grant.
I would like to go on that as a co-sponsor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 270 passes unanimous. 271, please.
Rescinding the authorization to convey real property pursuant to Resolution 250 for 2019 and authorizing the conveyance of 39 Garfield Place.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Chairman, please, Wanda Willingham, please note my abstention.
Got it. Opposed? Okay, 271 passes, 1 abstention. 272, please.
Rescinding an authorization to convey real property pursuant to Resolution 69 for 2020 and authorizing the conveyance of 268 Star Road.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 272 passes. Unanimous. 273, please.
Authorizing refund of real property taxes in the city of Albany.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 273 passes. Unanimous. 274, please.
Authorizing correction of tax roll for the cities of Albany and what relate to the town of Bern, Queens, Colony, and Rensselaerville.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 274 passes. Unanimous. 275, please.
Hold on 1 minute. Like we got misplaced.
Take your time.
That one got hold on a second.
We're holding.
Authorizing submission of a grant application to Federal Emergency Management Agency regarding public assistance grant funding.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 275 passes. Unanimous. For 276, please.
Requesting the Albany County Controller and Commissioner of Human Resources to review Albany County rules and regs for employees and provide recommendations concerning timekeeping practices.
Please send that to Personnel and Audit and Finance. Clerk, please read Resolution 194.
Yeah.
Resolution amending Resolution 283 from 1992 to subsequently restore the committee to fill vacancies in response to the COVID-19 related health emergency and uncertainty in the budgetary realities caused by the current global pandemic.
Okay, folks, the charter directs that legislation subject to veto be presented at the next meeting of the legislature, which is tonight. As you are all aware, I have had discussions with the county executive, and as the committee to fill vacancies is currently operating in the manner I initially desired, there is no need to seek an override tonight. Now, we would normally adjourn at this point, but as my understanding, there is a Rule 11 motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Lakakis,
I'd like to make a motion to invoke Rule 11 for legislation so that the South Albany Airport can submit a grant to the Aviation Capital Grant Program. They need our endorsement to apply, which is what this resolution purpose is.
Okay, on the motion to invoke Rule 11, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the Rule 11 passes. We're gonna have the clerk read the resolution.
Endorsing the submission of a grant application for the South Albany Airport regarding the Aviation Capital Grant Program.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 277 passes unanimous. And that's it for tonight's agenda, everyone. Before I accept a motion to adjourn, I want to thank all of you for your participation and also your patience as we got a late start tonight. Please heed the advice of medical professionals and keep yourselves and your families safe. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Reinhardt, seconded by Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Stay safe.
Thank you to the 17 people watching on YouTube still.
Yay!
Hey.